Hey guys, welcome back to the Barndominium, and today we're going to be talking about tools, materials, stuff I keep on site. How do you stockpile yourself to be ready to build a cob house? There's a few videos that we're going to start doing. Hopefully I can get them done soon. We had a recommendation from subscriber and channel watcher Cassidy Art that I should start enveloping some of these topics, show people what you need, talk about why I did this, and a few other topics. So we'll make a few videos. But I want to thank Cassidy Art for watching, for commenting. I really wish everybody would comment. There really is so much information that I get out of y'all about what I'm missing, what the things that I'm not telling you. And I get a lot of good information. I mean, I'm not the world's most experienced cobber. I think at this point in time, I'd probably be considered a professional cobber. But, right, I've only built one cob house. So there's a lot of things I don't think about. There's a lot of things I don't realize. I've studied a few different cultures on this. And, I've gathered what I can. But your comments really just highlight individual things that y'all need as subscribers. So, tools, materials, what I'm doing now, maybe what I used to do. Let's get on it. So, let's do materials. Wood. This is all new. I bought it at the Mother Earth News Festival from one of the sawmill companies. They were doing demonstrations, so I got it really cheap. If you've ever tried to buy dimensional lumber, or you try to go buy hardwoods or something, it's crazy. They sell it volumetrically by board foot, which is 1 inch by 12 inch by 12 inch, and I mean it's astronomical. So look online for free lumber, cheap lumber. Try to find some trees that have fallen down and get yourself an Alaskan chainsaw mill. I'll try to describe that here in a second. I have piles and piles of building material, from windows to chandeliers, fans, everything you could imagine. So you really need to take stock of your building, the one you are planning to build, and start acquiring years in advance all this stuff, because you can find $500 chandeliers used for $50, $60, $70 after remodels, or even free. Go cruise construction sites. They throw giant piles of lumber and rock and stuff into a pile. You can usually go talk to the job site guy, and he'll be like, "Oh, take it," or "This is what we're doing." So that's materials. Find the materials that you have to have for your cob house and stockpile them. Let's go walk around the corner, and maybe we'll segue into the tool segment after we talk about sand, right? So this is my sand pile, materials on site. I bought this property knowing that I had a wet weather creek with all this beautiful sand, so I saved thousands and thousands of dollars by not buying my own sand. And that goes for clay as well. You might have heard me talk about the pond. We did soil testing out here, so we knew that we had all of the clay that we needed and all the sand that we needed. The only thing I bought was the straw and, obviously the other materials. So if you're building a cob house, you need to find out where you're going to get those materials from. If you're in an area that doesn't have clay, I know it sounds crazy, but I have heard of people buying bags of pottery clay at extreme prices to fix that problem. So materials, you need to know what you are going to want to use, and you need to find them in advance. If you have to buy them on the moment, you're going to pay premium prices. So tools right here. That's a tool. If you're going to make cob, you got a few different ways. You can use a tractor. You can use livestock. You can use your own feet. You can get a high-powered drill. You can use a cement mixer, but there's drawbacks. You can also use a mortar mixer. I might not have used a mortar mixer if I didn't find this one so cheap. I found it for about $600 in perfect condition, except a construction crew had rented it and used it to mix glue. And for mortar mixing, it pretty much ruined it. For cob mixing, it didn't matter, so I got it for a steal. This does 10 people's work with one person operating the machine, and it takes 1/10 of the time to make the same amount of cob. So this is absolutely necessary. This is a whole construction crew. So let's go walk by this way, and we're going to go talk about tools. Tools. You don't have to have everything mechanized. You know, you can do hand tools, and I'll talk about why I used to and what the benefit is. But small assorted tools, hammers and stuff like that, I'm going to let you figure out. You can go buy your own hammer, and if you don't know why you need one, it's not just for nails. I mean, it's a construction and demolition tool. This guy right here, next tool on the line, it's a oscillating multi-tool. Mine's a Dremel. This is a very nice version, but what I use this for, besides doing a little bitty trimming and stuff on wood where my circular saw won't fit, I use this to install all of my electricity. That little blade goes left to right 25,000 times a second or something like that, or a minute, and it melts the cob. I mean, it just causes it to crumble like an earthquake. So I did the whole of the wiring in this cob house in only a few days with a tool like that. It was fantastic to work with, and I would absolutely buy another one. So there you go. That's just a quick overview of where my electric came into play and some of my tools. You absolutely need a drill. You don't need the world's best drill. If you don't know a lot about drills, I would find out more about impact versus hammer versus regular drills. Oh wait, we're not talking about this. Well, we're going to kind of talk about this, right? Wood. You need wood. You have to have it. This stuff I bought, and with this table saw, I was able to basically cut out of these 2x6s that I got at the Mother Earth News Fair while I was there a few weeks ago. Very cheap lumber. Like I said, if you ever bought dimensional lumber or you buy it online per board foot, it's crazy. But this table saw, very expensive, but it is a very safe table saw, and it is very accurate. This is a contractor's table or a hybrid table, sometimes they call them. Was about $600. I got it 10% off. I had a small Craftsman, and it didn't have a fence. This is the fence, right? So this is what makes sure you're going to make perfectly even cuts, hopefully. And it did not have this riving knife, right? You can install riving knives on your own saws if you have one already, but I would try not to use a cheap saw. The problems with my little Craftsman, besides being not accurate and shaking so violently, it affected the cut and made it just really, really rough. I found myself doing extremely dangerous things, and I know better, because I was using an inferior table saw that was nothing more than a circular saw, like, bolted up to the bottom of a table. The reason I like this one is an induction motor, so it's extremely quiet. It doesn't make a lot of noise beyond the noise that it takes for cutting. And I get to use this table for things like, I used it for the drawers, so I used the blade adjustment right here, as you can see. Oh, going all the way down. So if you get the blade all the way down, you can cut your little runners and stuff for drawers and cabinets. But what I did is I made my lumber out of it. you know. So I cut all my trim pieces, cut little veneers and stuff like that. Oh, little pieces like this. It was a larger piece, but this is how I made the bottoms of the drawers and stuff. Other tools. Right here. This is a miter saw. Some people call them chop saws. You know, a chop saw is an actual thing. It is a double bevel, right? So the blade itself will turn both ways. So if you have to make 2 cuts on a piece, you don't have to remove the piece and then flip it around. This is about $200. I got it from Harbor Freight. That can be a risky situation. When I got this thing, my fence here was horribly bent, or maybe not bent, it just wasn't straight, you know, and it caused me to cut a few things not so straight. What I did is I just started hammering on the back of this piece right here until I got it straight. There is a little crack in it, but this thing right here will just save you a lot of time, and it will give you accuracy, because every single time that you bring this thing down, it comes to the same spot, and via the bevel feature and this miter feature right here that will let you turn the table underneath the saw is going to let you cut corners 45 degrees. You're going to join things much, much easier than using a circular saw. Okay, right here, we're not going to go into these too much. Right, we have a vise here. I've used this for limited stuff so I could angle grind something, you know, shave off some L brackets and unbend a tool. So, you know, it's like a $50 Yoast, maybe $70 Yoast vise off of Amazon. This is a bench grinder. It's not always used, but I have used it a few times just to straighten up things. You can sharpen your chisels with these kind of saws, sharpen some of your log. You know, if you have a log debarking tool where you pull it towards your draw knife, I think is what it's called. You can do all your tool maintenance here. This was about $90. Win is a fantastic company. I would suggest getting one that has a variable speed setting, because you want to be grinding wood and plastics and metal and even different types of wood at different speeds so they don't burn the surface and things like that. Drill press is for repeatability. Okay, so if you need something to line up perfectly and have a 90-degree hole in it, you just can't get past a drill press. Just like I said, variable speeds are very important with our bench grinder. So are they with the drill press. As you move these bands around, in accordance with this chart, it'll change the speed. That way you're not burning bits and breaking them and stuff. That's about a $90 tool as well. We have a belt sander and a disc sander combo here. This was basically invaluable to making my cabinets. I had to round corners over that were too sharp, and when you do round corners over like this is a produced piece of wood, you know, so I bought this used, but that rounded edge is just beautiful. You can do it with a router, but a router to me doesn't have as many uses. I still need a router one day. But versus this, right, that doesn't look very worked, and it doesn't look as nice. So that's what I use the belt sander for. About a $70 tool, nothing crazy. And we're also going to talk about, let's see if I can put y'all down. I'm sure y'all already have motion sickness from all the shaking. So another thing is a chainsaw. I bought a Stihl chainsaw, very expensive. It's paid off. I've had it for 3 years. The carb has not been clogged. You go buy those little Pullons and Echo chainsaws from Home Depot, and in a very short amount... Oh, I think y'all are slipping here. In a very short amount of time, you're going to have to get a carb rebuild and a lot of people are charging $150 to $200, and really, I mean, the saw is just a throwaway saw at that moment. So my still has been working for 3 years, but what I do with it is I have cut down my own lumber from my trees, made slivers out of mesquite logs, embedded those into the shelving and stuff, and you can also hook up an Alaskan chainsaw mill. For about $150, there's this plate that gets attached to your chainsaw. It reduces the length that you can cut. So an 18-inch bar maybe only will cut a 12 to 14-inch wide board because of how this thing attaches. But you can go take raw wood, just trees and limbs and stuff like that, and start to cut your own stuff and really, really save some money. You go out to farmers' fields and stuff, they have dead trees standing, or somewhere in your neighborhood after a windstorm. You can go, be like, hey, let me cut this pecan tree up for you, and I'll take away, the big stump in the log and leave your limbs and stuff like that, and you can deal with that. And with that Alaskan chainsaw mill, you're going to be very tired, but, you can build a whole house just out of that product. So I think that's it. Oh, wait! Let's talk about how we used to do all this. Before I bought all this stuff, and before I had electricity in the cob house, I was doing everything by hand. Hand saws, cutting everything, making my notches and stuff like that. And don't underestimate it. If you're not going to build a huge house like this, or how much time it actually takes to do everything by hand, before I bought these expensive tools, I was making perfect, repeatable, and smooth cuts with a handsaw. As long as you take your time, you do your measurements, you use a speed square, carpenter's tool, helps you get a 90 degree on everything. You are going to make fantastic cuts by hand. It takes a lot of time. A lot of your chisels have to be sharpened once a week if you're continually using them. So that's a whole nother bag to open. But if it's in your budget to do it by hand, get out there on YouTube and watch some of these hand woodworkers shows. They will tell you how to go to thrift stores, garage sales, yard sales, and get $1 tools, $5 tools, and you could build a whole house perfectly and probably more accurately than my $500 Delta table saw. But it takes forever, okay? And you do need to kind of know what you're doing and what you're looking at. So that's it. We're done. We're done talking. Thank you very much, Cassidy Art, for your recommendations. Look for some more all-inclusive, 1 hour long videos like this, and that's it. Like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you out there. Thanks, guys.